Welcome to Jump School. I'm your host, Ihsaan Ali, aka the StyleJumper. On this podcast, you'll learn a ton of things. We'll talk about style, confidence, etiquette, creativity, and entrepreneurship. Today's episode was brought to you by my new book, Why Style Matters, The Mindset of Dressing Well and How It Impacts Your Life. To get your autographed copy, click the link in the description. The following is an excerpt from Instagram Live. Let's go.
Brother.
What up?
Man, it's always so good to see you.
Oh, man. Every time I see you, it's like yesterday. You know what I mean? Now you got the dread game going, looking good, bro.
Likewise, man. You're one of the most fashionist. I love my fashion, but I've never seen you not be on point for the last 20 years, bro, since I met you.
Thanks, bro. I appreciate it.
From the big jeans, remember the jeans you used to make?
Yep. The blue jacket dungarees.
Yep.
Yeah, with the Bleach Boys.
Yep.
Oh, man. So it's funny because most people don't know about their history.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? And one of the things I wanted to start off by talking about, man, we've known each other for almost 20 years,
Since 1999.
Yeah. So it's been 21 years. That's crazy. Crazy. So we have grown together. We lived in the same city. We've bounced into each other just randomly on the East Coast, a couple of years ago, which is amazing. Yeah. And, I just want to start. First, I want to say thank you, man. Thank you. I know you're extremely busy. And just seeing your life on the other side of the screen, like really knowing you, it's just been, you know what I mean? It's been a blessing, man. It's been so awesome to see you. So I want to start off the call by saying, for those of you who don't know, Garrain Jones is an amazing motivational speaker, transformational coach, amazing individual who I've known for 21 years. The first time I met him,
21 years, bro.
Just crazy. He was singing. I'm like, who is that singing in the back? I mean, he was getting down. I think we were in the airport or something. He was just killing it. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Garrain Jones. What's up, bro?
Man, I do all kind of podcasts. I do all kind of interviews all over the world, some of the top people. But it's different when you got history with somebody who you about to have a dialogue with millions of people. So it's just, my brain is just going like, oh, I remember this time. I remember that time. I remember was in the house. And I remember the jeans. I remember this. I remember that. And now we're here.
Now we're here.
And then how I was just visiting a friend in freaking Virginia and walked into the gym and saw you then. So it's clear that part of God's design is for us to continuously dialogue and stay in each other's life. So thank you for having me on.
Oh, man, it's an honor, man. It's like seeing one of your little brothers flourish. You know what I mean? Your little brothers make the league, and you're watching and you're rooting for them. I'm always rooting for you. I don't care what's going on. Whenever I see you, my heart gets filled up because I know the life, I know the struggle, I know what you've gone through, and it's just a beautiful thing. So I want to start off, man, you're newlywed. What's up with that, bro?
Man, you know what? The best way to describe my marriage is, one, I love being married because I saw what life was like as a single man, trying to take down every woman in the club. And it got old after a while. I was like, there's got to be more. And I felt like I reached the pinnacle of what it was to be a single person that was striving to do things for himself instead of understanding the expansion of that oneness when two energies just coagulate together and then start to amplify one another. And I never knew. So I was like, I'm going to be single for the rest of my life until I met the one. And when you just know.
You know, bro.
First date.
Yep.
I was like, I could literally see you being the mother of our children.
Exactly.
I told her on the first date, she was like,
what? Boy, you crazy.
Well, this is where we are right now.
Bro, I know the exact same thing. I met my wife by chance, if you will, on Sunset Strip in Chin Chin's. She walked up the back staircase, and I was working. You know what? When we're in LA, you got multiple jobs. You turn Jamaican in LA, right? You modeling, you doing personal training, you're a massage therapist. And I was hosting that Chin Chin's, man, and she walked in. And when I saw her, I was like, click, first of all, whoever I was talking to, I hung up on. And it was like, Miss Parker on Friday when Bernie Mac went up, ran over to Miss.
Yeah.
That's exactly how it was, man. So I know exactly what you mean, bro. Just it, you sense that energy connects, and like the world changed because everything kind of falls away. And you're like, all the other stuff don't matter no more. You're hyper focusing on that one person, and it's almost like your souls connect. It's a different type of connection.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
It's beyond the flesh, so you can't.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people are trying to make sense of. They're like, man, I'm just trying to. When it's a spiritual thing, you can't make sense of, because it's in a completely different realm, because you're trying to logically make sense of something that God has put together when that is in the spiritual realm. It's like a first grader trying to make sense of the fifth grade, but if you accept it for what it is and you surrender to the process and you allow yourself to truly receive what this is, you will literally morph into the person who you need to be so that you can sustain at the level that I feel God is calling you to step into.
I believe that 100%. And we both knowing what it is to live in Los Angeles, to be in New York City, we've seen the most beautiful. We've been in that space. We know what that's like. So it's far beyond the external, like you're saying, because it only goes but so far. Then you got to start peeling those layers. It's like an onion, right? What is the center of that onion? You know what I mean? So it makes perfect sense to me. So, boy, I was doing some research, and Mama used to be a DJ, bro. What's up with that?
She still is.
Mom still DJing?
Man, yeah, okay. So my mother's 65 years old, and her DJ name is DJ Jazzy Jones.
Mom's beautiful, by the way. Just beautiful. I love seeing her.
Thank you so much. So I only grew up with my family, so I didn't know what it was like being inside of other people's families. So I thought everybody's was just like me. So it wasn't until I got older, I'm like, wait, so that is an abnormal thing. My mother used to DJ my parties, and it wasn't like no whack party. She literally
lighting it up.
She like lighting it up. So my mother would DJ my parties, but she would also be selling mixtapes.
What?
Bro, like real talk, because she had all these CDs and she would make her own mixtapes and then sell them out. And I'm like, to me, it's normal because I've lived it with it my whole life. But when other people, they're like, bro, your mother's a DJ? So, yeah, man, DJ Jazzy Jones, she's had so many different kinds of talents. And I say her greatest job that she'd ever done. I got this saying, a friend of mine says it all the time. She said, never doubt the power of a mother that will go anywhere and everywhere to provide for her children.
That's good.
And my mom, no matter what, my father was murdered when I was 12 years old, so she had to play the dad and the mom in the household. My mom, the best way she knew how, provided me with a safe space. That was the greatest job ever. So she had all these other different things. Greatest job ever is I'm alive right now, and a lot of my friends are not, that I came up with.
Mom poured into you, man. It's so important. So, not everybody knows the story. So tell us a little bit about your history. Where'd you grow up? Break it down. Obviously, you've said it a million times.
Yeah.
But tell us about, where you grew up, and then how did you get to, about your dad losing his life. Okay. And then, it's kind of the genesis of your story.
Okay. So I was born in Houston, Texas. I was raised in Missouri City, Texas. Ran around with in my eyes, the right crowd, but it was the crowd that wasn't leading towards any kind of dreams where I wanted to go. However, they brought me in. I ran around with gangbangers. I did what they did. I wasn't in a gang, but I just somehow found my way into that lifestyle. Went in and out of juvenile several times. You could literally see the pathway my life was going on, breaking into cars, breaking into houses, in shootouts. I ain't never shoot nobody, but I was part of weird
you're in the crew.
things in the past. Yeah. And I remember one time there was a shootout, and there was like a little fence by my house, so people were behind there. There was knifing going on. There was like gunshots. It was the craziest thing.
Yeah.
And a bullet had ricocheted and leaped up and hit me in my left thigh. And I didn't think anything of it because there was so much adrenaline going on.
Yeah.
But it was to the point where for 5 years, they couldn't because of where it was in the artery, they couldn't remove it. So I had this like little knot right there in my left thigh. Bro, I was 15 years old.
That's crazy.
So I got shot when I was 15 years old. And so that was pretty much my life, and it just carried on because one thing I say all the time is adults are deteriorated children unless you start waking up to knowing that you can reshape and change the way that you look at life. And once you change your perspective, your life it's like the universe becomes plastic according to the thoughts you give the most power to. Well, I didn't change that till I was 32. So times that 15 years old, and you just keep on the same path, I'd say 21. I ended up in France chasing this girl around, and then I ended up doing this little deal where I was smuggling drugs from one country to another. I got caught, got sentenced to 12 years in prison, ended up doing 2.5 years. For some reason, they retested the drugs, and they retested the drugs, and for the amount of time that I did, there was a lot of fake inside of the drugs. So for the amount of time that I did, I'd already done that time, so I was free to go.
Oh, man.
Let me go. Let me out. Tried to do the modeling thing again, but I was 15 pounds overweight, so I couldn't fit into any of the clothes, and I just had to figure life out. And my life just started spiraling and spiraling and spiraling. Once I got out, I got into music. I ended up doing a deal with Ludacris over at DTP Def Jam. It wasn't a situation. I love them. I love Shaka, Luda, and all of them.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. I allowed myself to lose myself to do other kind of music that didn't connect to my soul. And once all of that was gone, bro, I just felt like I had nothing in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I cut you off. I remember a couple of things. One, I remember coming out to the showcase out in Santa Monica, see you sing. I remember, the times we would go running and run your can, you'd be killing me, trying to get me to run up them hills, man.
I still do that.
I know. That's you. I mean, that's who you are. And I was thinking, and it's funny because you talk about 1999, and it was the golden era of hip hop clothes, hip hop brands. Sharif was doing Wilson's Leather. I was doing Echo, and was that a Nietzsche?
No, I did a Nietzsche and Wilson's Leather.
Okay, yeah, but I remember the big billboard you had in New York.
Yep.
So it was dope because it was like we were friends and we were doing so much. But those who don't realize it and they think about this whole path of modeling and acting, you're hopping couches, you barely eating,
yeah.
you doing like I said, you're a Jamaican, you're a trainer, you're doing massage therapy, you're doing all these things just to survive.
Yeah,
and people
because
go ahead.
No, because even in modeling, you do the job, they don't give you the check the same day. So I'm waiting 3-4 months for my check. So I'm just like doing this job, and I'm like, by the time I get my check, I already got back due pay. So I had to pay that off, waiting for another job and waiting for another job. And it just, it got to the point where I was doing it so I could be famous, so I could be seen. And once I was seen, I realized that wasn't it, because I still felt invisible.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I thought about was you and I became parents around the same time.
Yep.
I remember a conversation we had, because when I met you, my daughter was about 1. And then a couple of years later, I remember us having a conversation. You called me like, yo, I go have a baby, bro. I was like, what? You know what I mean? No, but it was, and so I know what it's like to try to figure that out, to try, being young, being in that environment of entertainment, but also the responsibility of being a father. And in that process, there's a lot of challenges that happen. Me being a father, and, you're saying now you have this dynamic, beautiful relationship with your daughter. Tell us about, what was that like, man? Just that coming to fatherhood, and how the industry and even just maturity in life kind of gets you off track, if you will, and how you redirected your path to her.
So fatherhood was hard for me because my father was never there. So I didn't even have an example. And people tend to often, unless they learn different, carry on the same domestication that they learned from their parents, and then they literally pass that on. That's why I say all the time, we weren't put here to pay bills and die and then pass that philosophy on to our kids. So there were things that I learned in my household. One, my dad was a Rolling Stone, so he was sleeping with women. My dad was also a drug dealer. He also lied a lot. He also never showed up. So there was a lot of different things. So in that aspect of my life, I didn't even feel like I was worthy of even of having relationship with other males, which is why I never had real, like, you and I know each other, but we really don't know each other. Like, we know because we were around, but we really don't, know. We never really sat down like we're talking right now and being intentional with our words. Never really, because I didn't have that, because I always kept people at this length, because I had no relation to other males in my life. Now, with my mom was always at work. My mom was also the disciplinarian. My mother also never made $3,000 on any one given month. So her secrets to success could not teach me beyond what was going on in the household, which was, we ain't got no money. I'm broke. We can't afford it. So when you domesticate a child with, I'm broke, I can't afford it, we ain't got no money, that is a worthiness conversation where the center console of not being worthy is wrapped in words like, we can't afford it, we ain't got no money, all of these different things like that. So just growing up in that household, not having any dynamics really of family, because my idea is family of never be on time, never hold your word, always be shameful, never be vulnerable, broke, we ain't got no money, nobody really loves themselves.
Yeah.
Only to take that construct, and when I had a kid, I didn't know any better but to do the same thing. Now, my daughter's mom, Laura, is just, it's different. She had a different family dynamics, so she showed up, and she also gave birth. I was there for the birth, but it was a different come from, and I was upset because she didn't understand me, and she was upset because I didn't understand her, and so this is not making any excuse. I've definitely handled my responsibility, but I was just like, I just don't understand. I'm trying to show up and nobody can see me. And through that, I just couldn't figure that out. So for 15 years, I was in and out of my daughter's life. But those 15 years, I was walking around in shame, blame,
Yep.
insecure, not confident, trying to make up for the 15 years that went by. And no matter what good I did, it was always put inside of, you haven't been here for 15 years, which I have. But what I didn't know that my daughter was saying is like, you haven't been here and present and been responsible. And she couldn't articulate it at that time. So it's just like, you're not here. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm here. And then sometimes I would hear things like, don't ever call me again. And so I would just want to be respectful and not call my daughter. And then I would hear things like, well, you didn't call me. I'm like, wait a second. You told me. See, I didn't know how to speak. I have a running joke. I didn't know how to speak woman back then.
Yeah.
That does not necessarily mean don't call.
Yeah.
So through all of that, it wasn't until I gave up trying to make up for the last 15 years, because you can't make up for the 15 years.
You can't, bro.
What I decided was who I was going to be now moving forward. And that's the thing. And then the kid sometimes may want you to make up for 15 years, but you can't make up for those 15 years.
Yeah.
So the moment I decided not to enter the conversation looking through the eyes of shame, looking through the eyes of blame, looking through the eyes of insecurity, whatever eyes you look through is the reality that you will shape. So what I shifted into was, I am the most powerful representation of who Kylia will marry one day. So just imagine. I don't know what that sounds like. I don't know what that looks like. But just by claiming who I am, not who I was going to be, but who I am the most powerful representation of who she will marry one day. My energy started changing because I started thinking as if I were that person. My actions started changing. I started being on time. I started showing up and everything. And all of a sudden, she started to trust me because I showed up different. And when I showed up different, all of a sudden, she showed up different. And we kept up-leveling each other. Now, I'm going to leave you with this. Here's the thing. I wasn't coming as this weak person says, I hope she sees that I've changed and I'm strong for everybody else all over the world. I became whole, a whole person, because all of us are perfect, whole, and complete as we are. But if you don't see yourselves that, you'll see yourself as the emptiness. So when I became whole in that relationship as the representation, the boyfriend that she had a personality that was just like who I used to be. And when I shifted, she got rid of him. And then when I shifted into the next person, she got rid of him. And when I was like, I'm just going to focus on myself and all of a sudden she's like, Dad, I'm not with him anymore. I'm just going to start focusing on myself. And I was like, oh my God, I'm the most powerful representation of who she will marry one day, but she needs an example. People don't do what you say, people do what they see. So when I overcame the hurdle of myself and saw myself as powerful in that relationship, not trying to make up for the past, that's when we had a relationship, because I also had a relationship with myself.
It's beautiful, man, because, it's the struggle for many brothers. I mean, and many men in general, we don't know how to course correct. We're living in the past. We're living in shame. We're living in our mistakes.
Living with pride.
Yeah, full of pride. So when we see our child, we see them, but we see our mistakes show up. And so it's almost like
that's
a wall.
so good.
You know what I mean? So it blocks us. So we can't even really see them because we got to go through the curtain or the wall of our mistakes and our immaturity and all the past hurts that we we did to them, or even to ourselves, really, as a reaction, and the responsibilities that we didn't carry out, the calls that we didn't make, that's coming up instead of saying, okay, these are things I didn't do. But today, I'm going to be the best human being I can for me, which, to your point, in reflection, will reflect back to her. And so that's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. So
Before you go into that,
yeah,
when I did that, I also made a declaration. I said this. I said, I want a fun, loving, open relationship with my daughter where we are both learning from each other and she knows my side of the family. And none of those things were anywhere in existence. She wouldn't even give it the time of day.
Mm.
And now we have a fun, loving, open relationship where we're both learning from each other. I thought I was teaching her, but the whole time she was teaching me on what I wanted in a woman without me even knowing it, because she's the only woman that I would drop my guard for, and my daughter would not accept a lesser version of me. She would only accept the best version of me, and I retrained my childhood paradigm that I was domesticated in and seeing women through my dad's eyes. I now started to see women through my daughter's eyes, and that is when I attracted my wife.
Freedom. She freed you up, bro. She freed you up, man. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So we talked a little bit earlier, man, bouncing around in LA, just trying to survive. And how'd you live in sleeping in your car, man?
So, like I said before, the adults, unless you start learning new knowledge, adults are deteriorated children. So if I was domesticated with the mindset of broke, I can't afford it, I'm not worthy of success, I'm not worthy of love, procrastination, never being on time. So if that is my ecosystem of domestication and I don't know any better, if I go to any place that's faster paced, because Missouri City is real slow, LA was faster. New York was even faster. With that same level of thinking, without learning anymore, eventually the world just started to compound on me. It started to compound on me because I just couldn't seem to figure it out. And I just remember that I got to the point where I was like, man, I just feel like life is taking everything away from me. Took away my daughter, took away my girlfriend, took away my money, took away the only thing I have left is my car. So I'm going to start living in my car because I can't afford rent. People are looking at me saying, man, I'm just trying to get like you. But really, deep down inside, I didn't even want to be alive. And there's lots of people like that putting on just for an image so that you could live how you think other people think you should live, which is a jail cell inside of a jail cell itself. But true freedom lies in the power to possess your own mind, not living for someone else. So when I was in my car, it's because I had given all my power away to women, to money, to jobs, to music, and I gave all my power away. It was like I had nothing left for me. However, that's when I lost myself the most. And in losing myself, where I felt like everything was being stripped away from me, but from a space of nothing, you can create anything. So when I lost myself, I actually found myself. Because people are wrapped up in all of their distractions and they call that them. That's why it was so hard for people during quarantine to be with themselves, because people don't know how to be with themselves. That's why they got to overcompensate and work out and listen to all kind of music to distract from self. Well, in losing myself, I found myself. And when I found myself, everything shifted. So it took me to hit rock bottom for it to catch my attention to realize, oh, I never wanted any of those things in the first place. So it was like the universe stripping them all out of my life so that I wasn't starting from scratch. I was starting from me.
Yeah.
That's how that happened.
But it's interesting, man, because I can imagine there's so many talented people in the world. And you look at yourself and you comparing yourself, and that's, you know, the robber of the soul is comparison. But to comparing yourself to others that who are, air quotes, are doing well, especially in the industries that we were a part of, and your beautiful, amazing voice, and feeling like, hey, I'm more talented than this person. What's the problem? What's the issue? Why am I not elevating to where I need to be? Is it that I'm not making enough sacrifices? Am I not disciplined enough? Am I not focused? What is it, you know, when you were going through that process, what do you think was that barrier where you felt like, or maybe it was this, maybe the music was just to acknowledge that you had the talent, but your talent needed to be shifted someplace else?
Nah, the barrier hit me in every genre that I was in, and that was fear.
Talk about that.
Okay, I'll talk about that. This is how children are taught fear. Matter of fact, I'll give you another analogy. Imagine a dog that's getting into the neighbor's yard, and then the neighbor says, if your dog gets into my yard again, I'm going to call the puppy pound. So the owner of the dog puts a shock collar over the dog's neck, and then all of a sudden, every time the dog goes over to that fence, boom, fear, pain. Shock, fear, pain. So every time it goes across the beaten path, it injects fear and pain in its mind, and then it starts to tell a story of fear and pain. So if you want to know how this looks, imagine when you first learn the ABCs, and then you keep going. It turns into words, turns into paragraphs, sentences, essays, books. Now imagine the ABCs of fear and pain. And you just keep doing it over and over and over and over and over again for 30 years. Now, imagine the owner of the dog, taking the shock collar off the dog's neck, but it's already told itself, I'm afraid, I'm not worthy. Every time I do this, there's pain, there's fear. Even with the electrical fence not there, the dog for the rest of its life will go like this and then pull back and then pull back and not ask the girl out, not write the book, not take a leap of faith, not do this, not do this, not do this, because it still thinks there's a shock collar over its neck, but it's been domesticated in fear. If you're domesticated in fear, you can be controlled by fear. Just look at the state of the world.
Yep.
The news media accelerates the fear that you've been trained by since you were a little kid.
Facts.
So that was my barrier.
It's so interesting, man, because your analogy of the dog collar reminds me of the analogy of the elephant, right? You put the chain on the elephant when they're a baby. Of course the elephant can, shoot. The elephant, a lion, a tiger in the circus, it's the same thing. It's that control and that mind thinking, hey, I can't do it. And they forget that they're strong. Forget that I'm a lion or a tiger. And I remember, what's his name? Cat was talking about how he, the tiger, and how the tiger forgot he was a tiger and jumped and killed those people. But it's just so amazing that by having those restrictions at such a young age and those conversations and those negative people and all those different dialogues, how, and you start to believe that you can't do things. You don't have the capacity to, you're not smart enough. He's sort of like my teachers used to say, Ihsaan, on my report card, Ihsaan is capable of doing better work. Ihsaan talked too much in class. So all my life, I was thinking, I'm capable of doing more, but I'm not enough where I am. You know, it's never enough, or I never had enough processing that, you know, positive thing. Okay, yeah, you might talk too much in class, but let's shift that energy. Let's shift that those conversations. Well, first of all, teaching you to find out what you're talking about, right? And then once they figure out what you're talking about, maybe we need to get him into speaking class. You know what I mean? Or maybe he's funny. He's always making jokes. Let's see if we can get him in a talent show. But we get conditioned to believe that the things and the gifts that we have, we ended up becoming fearful of those things. And now every time we attempt to do something that we want to do, that person shows up, that teacher shows up, that voice shows up. Maybe it's mama, maybe it's the teacher, maybe it's, you know, your ex-girlfriend or your husband. Those people are showing up and they're in your head. And what's the statistic is like, I think it's 30,000 negative thoughts a day that we have in our head. So it's constantly battling that, and you can't even break through those barriers of those conversations because they're all in your heads, like they're yelling at you all the time. And you know what you can do. You know that you're talented. You know you're gifted, but the fear shows up. And
Yeah. So a lot of times that's why it takes people going through a physical something, or like they go through something, they hit a rock bottom, or their girlfriend leaves them, or their husband leaves them, and then all of a sudden they wake up because they now start to see the value of what their actions has caused. But if you drop a seed on cement, nothing is going to grow. But what's under cement? Dirt and soil. But what do they do to get there? They got to drill and drill and drill. Then it cracks open. So, you know, that whole conversation, it's like that whole conversation. It's like jump and then the net will appear. It's like you go, anything that's beyond what you resist is the door to more, because it's going to strengthen your willpower, because you've been operating from your comfort zone your entire life, or your fear zone your entire life, or your freaking invisible wall of fear literally your entire life. And so that was the thing for me, because I had little voices in my head. You'll never make it. You'll never make it. You'll never make it. You'll never. And I never heard things when I was a little kid. You can be anything that you want to be and things like that. I just heard you'll never make it. So the second I get to a place that's beyond my comfort zone, I start reeling it back. I would do that with my health. I would do that with a nice job. I would do that with a girl. And then I would do that. And that was literally my entire life. But if you knew better, you do better. You cannot change what you're not aware of. So once I was aware of the weight of me not presenting my best self to the world, and saw what my life could potentially look like, I realized that I was doing a disservice to humanity by giving them my scraps. Yes, I was blessed, but you could be receiving the bottom of the blessing instead of what you're truly meant to receive and get the full fruits of your life. That's what I'm aiming for. And that's my mission, is to create spaces and environments so people can understand their God-given talents, so they can use them and produce extraordinary results in their lives and live to their fullest.
So you ended up meeting this angel disguised as a homeless man.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
So it was August 2011. It was a week after I had this, it was crazy prayer, bro. I was crying. I was cursing. I was 40 pounds overweight, and I just, man, it was the night that I tried to kill myself because I didn't know a reason for living, bro. It had gotten real bad.
Wow.
Living in my car for 2.5 years. Then I just remember I was on the corner of La Brea and Hollywood in the Mail & More parking lot where the frozen yogurt spot is on the right, Cantaloupe. And I just cried out. I said, okay, I'm tired of fighting. I don't want to fight anymore. I want to be healthy. I want to be happy. I want to be surrounded by nothing but positive people. I just want to inspire people. And I want to make a bunch of money, but I want the money to represent something that I passionately believe in. Just show me a sign. A week later, I'm at the gas station. And that is when I met the homeless guy. Homeless guy.
Yeah.
And I asked him for money. And he said, you have more money than me. And I said, and then he goes, change your mindset, change your life, and walks away. And I've heard people say things before, and I've also heard people that say, you know, I wouldn't take advice from somebody who I wouldn't trade places with. But I felt like my life had been stripped away from every possession that I felt was my identity, to the point where people became equal. Even a homeless man, to the point where I was stripped down so much where I could actually hear a message, because a message can come through a rock, a message can come on a t-shirt, through a baby, through your ex-wife, through a homeless person, because there's more than one sight. There's also insight, eyes on the inside. If you have the insight to see what God is literally trying to tell you, and the only way to get your attention is through your heart. So I was willing to listen, and I stripped down, so I was just done with life. So I'm open, not like, oh, I don't have no time.
Yeah.
I'm open. Change your mindset, change your life. Bam! In that moment right there. Change your mindset, change your life. Change your mindset. So if I do different with the same circumstances, then my life will change. Well, it's been almost 9 years, bro. And that whole change that you've seen was from that one philosophy that led to a myriad of so many other disciplines. And now we are here.
It's a beautiful journey, man. How does someone connect to their inner child and find fulfillment and purpose? Because I think we get stripped from that inner child as we grow up. It's kind of like what we were talking about a little bit earlier.
Well, so one thing my dad always told me before he died, and it's crazy, he sent me a message and he was on drugs and alcohol. So that it can come from anywhere if you have the insight to hear it. 5 years old, during Christmas, all the adults are drinking. The kids are imitating whatever song is coming on, coming on MTV. Michael Jackson's Moonwalker came on. I went in front, you know, where the kids get in front of the parents and show off.
Yep.
I did that. Michael Jackson's Moonwalker, and all of a sudden everybody goes, Garrain, you can't sing. Garrain, you can't dance. And it hurt my heart because nobody was cheering for me. And then I heard my dad say, hey, don't you tell my son he can't do something. Garrain, you don't never listen to nobody. If you love it and it makes you happy, then you do it. Never stop doing what you love. You do what you love, okay? I never forgot that, right? Fast forward. If you could imagine a kid going, Mom, 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 Dad, Dad, trying to get your attention. Mom, Mom, Dad, Dad. And you're ignoring that child for 30 years. What would the relationship be like?
Terrible.
Why?
Because you're ignoring it.
Okay. No emotional closure, no kind of dialogue.
No dialogue.
Boom.
Yep.
So it's easy to understand, right? Well, anytime you have a notion of creativity, or you remember what used to make you happy when you were like 5 years old, like, say, for instance, I used to love to play in the rain because it made me feel so free. I used to love to draw. I used to love to dance because it made me feel so free. I love fashion. It just does something to me. Well, that's connected to your inner child, something that was already there, It's kind of like a human USB that you plug into the source and it makes the whole thing better. We already come to this world with something that's already inside of us. And so our inner child, the way I see it, possesses all the creativity, possesses the fun, the energy, all of those different things. And when we activate our inner child, that's what shows up as the adult that looks younger than they really should look, because age doesn't make you old. It's when you let life beat you down. That's what makes you old, and because your spirit can't hold that weight. But then once you start tapping into all the things that made you the happiest when you're little, it gets to the essence of your heart. The heart is the most powerful frequency in the world. So when you're using the source of one of the most powerful frequencies in the world, it actually starts using you. So I had a conversation with a young lady, and she goes, "Oh, I just feel like something is missing. I have my husband, I have my kids, I have money, but I just feel like something is missing." I was like, "What did you love as a child?" She said, "I used to love to dance." "When was the last time that you danced?" 20 years ago. So her inner child is no different than the baby going, "Mom, mom, mom, dad, dad." Now imagine you ignore your inner child for 20 years. It does the same thing to your soul. So it separates the physical from the spiritual, because you're not aligned with what's already inside of you. And it produces the same amount of feel like something is missing, as if you were in a relationship with a kid, like something was missing. It's the relationship with yourself. And so that's the best way that I explain inner child, is by honoring what's been in your heart this entire time. Your heart will then start to utilize your mind and your everything else like a puppet master, because you're operating from a powerful energy source.
It's interesting because I feel like even for me, I went through a decade where I didn't focus on clothes. It was a picture of me online. I wasn't into style, none of that. And it was that nagging at the spirit, that child saying, "Hey,
Dad, pay attention to me.
Exactly.
Please."
Exactly. And it's just been a wonderful journey just in these past 2 years of kind of like re-engaging that part of the self. And so I remember when you first started speaking. I remember seeing you in an office with maybe 20 to 25 people. And it was one of your first speeches and telling your story. So two things. Why is it important to tell your story? And two, what has speaking to now tens of thousands of people around the world, how has that impacted you?
One, you will never know me unless you know my story. You'll know your perspective, but until I vulnerably share my story, that's when you'll know who I am. And I'll give you an example. So I used to be this guy who was a model, he was a singer, he loved fashion, and that's all everybody knew. Oh, he was a playboy, he went to go take down a bunch of women and things like that. That's all you knew.
Yeah.
But you ain't really know me. And so I remember one day I wrote a letter. I wrote a letter from my big self to my little self. And I said, "Little Garrain," at this time I was going by my middle name, which was Garrain Jones. But the reason why that I started going by that is because I was wanting to run away from my past, because I was so ashamed of my past, my childhood. So I wrote an apology letter from my big self, Steph Jones, to little Garrain, and nobody over here knew me as Garrain. And so I said, I didn't forget about you. I love you. I'm sorry if it seems like I left you and everything. And then I switched to my non-dominant hand. When you write with your non-dominant hand, it operates a different part of your brain. That's why when you first start writing, it looks like a little kid's writing.
Mm-hmm.
So I switched to my non-dominant hand. Then I wrote a letter from little Garrain to Big Steph. And oh my God, I could not believe all the stuff that I suppressed as a child, but just by activating and writing with my left hand, and there was some emotional intelligence that was unlocked, and I started screaming and swearing and cursing and F you and you forgot about me and all these different things. And I wrote all of that down, pages and pages of snotty, ugly tears of 30 years worth of suppressing childhood trauma. After I had my release, it's a catharsis. You create the space to make room for your blessing. After I had my release, I said, you know what? My name is Garrain Jones, and it doesn't matter anything. My name is Garrain, and I went on Facebook. Nobody knew that I was doing this. I was unapologetically. I said, I'm going to be me all the way through. And I said, my name is Garrain Stefan Jones. You think you know me? You have no idea. You know this, this, and this, and this. Right now, I live in my car. Right now, I'm sleeping in an abandoned building. Right now, my bed is a bubble wrap. Here's where I'll be 5 years from now. And I wrote all this down. It's on Facebook right now. And exactly everything I wrote in that letter is exactly what I surpassed my wildest dreams 5 years later. This is where I'll be 5 years from now. And I wrote all of this down, but here's why I didn't realize what was going to happen. People used to always say to me, Ihsaan, are you hiding something? Are you gay? There's something you're hiding. There's just something that's just not authentic about you, right?
Yeah.
Bro, when I shared who I really was, raw and real, and I didn't give a F about what my family was going to say, and I start living for me.
Total control.
Bro, when I just was surrender and vulnerable and just allowed myself to be truly the essence of who Garrain Jones is, I had about 10 pages of emails, Gmail, long pages of people saying, whatever you're doing, I want to do it. How did you do that? How did you get that much strength? I put the gun down after I saw your story. I did not drive my car off a bridge after I saw your story. And it was in that moment I had a purpose in this world, and I knew what my mission was, and that was to share my story. And that was to live life in such a way that promotes freedom, so that, because you can't be what you can't see, so that other people can see what freedom and what truly living is like, which also gives other people permission to be themselves. And that's why you didn't know me until I knew me.
Beautiful,
so
man.
And when I shared my story, now you know me.
Powerful, bro. So we got maybe a little less than 5 minutes. So I want to first thank you so much for coming on. I can't wait to do this again, and we got to talk. There's so much about our friendship that we could share and continue to go on, because there's some things that I missed in here that I wanted to talk about. But I thought this segment would be fun, which is, I call it the Creative Last Supper. And so it's going to be real quick, okay? So you're going to be, who you going to pick? This person or that person, all right? So Stevie Wonder or Marvin Gaye. So these are the people that you're going to eat with Last Supper. Stevie or Marvin?
Stevie.
UGK or the Ghetto Boys?
Ghetto Boys.
Ralph Lauren or Paul Smith?
Paul Smith.
D'Angelo or Raphael Sadiq?
D'Angelo, all day.
Yves Saint Laurent or Alexander McQueen?
Ooh. Oh. I'm gonna go with McQueen.
Got you. Wu-Tang or Outkast?
Outcast.
Jagged Edge or Jodeci?
Jodeci.
Sade or Mary J?
Sade.
Michael or Prince?
Michael.
Martin when the Martin Show was out, and Will when the Fresh Prince was out.
Martin.
All day. Jim Rohn or John C. Maxwell?
Jim Rohn.
Miles Davis or John Coltrane?
Ooh.
Then I was gonna get you.
Oh. You know, I'm gonna go with Miles.
Gotcha.
Miles and miles and miles of Miles Davis.
So dope. Eric Thomas or Tony Robbins?
Tony Robbins.
Final question. If you could spend 24 hours with any creative, anyone, dead or alive, chop it up, ask them all the questions you want, who would it be and why?
80-year-old version of myself.
Woo! Break that down.
8 years ago, I was homeless. 8.5 years ago, I was $200,000 in debt. Homeless, tried to kill myself, didn't have a relationship with my daughter, never could see myself in a committed relationship, didn't have a relationship with my family. Now, only 9 years later, multimillionaire, retired his mom, have a relationship with my daughter, in a committed relationship, married, working on creating kids, breathing life into humanity, #1 best-selling author, and I could just keep going layers. Only 9 years. That's 9 years. I'm about to be 41 in a few weeks. So tack on another 40 years of that growth. Whoever that version of Garrain is, give me all the nuggets.
Woo! Boy, that's sweet, man. That's sweet, bro. Well, I have to say, man, this has been awesome. I knew it was going to be dope. I knew I was going to be hyped up. I got to take this jacket off now because I'm sweating. But where can, one more thing. You training for the Olympics? Or you were training? Or that was the old time?
No, so I was, and then I fell off a motorcycle, didn't quite rehabilitate. And right as soon as I started rehabilitating, that's when friggin' Corona and all this other stuff started happening. And I was just like, let me transfer this energy somewhere. So I'm still training, but it's more, I'm training for life. And when that comes around again, like I'm about to get back on the track again and all these different things. But it was like a whirlwind of things. And then all of a sudden I was like, you know what, perfect time to write my book. So I turned my Olympics into a book that was #1 in 3 different categories. So, if anybody's out there, go on Amazon right now, and Amazon Global on Kindle and paperback. Change your mindset, change your life. It's a lot of the same principles that we had on this. Put in basic, easy to read format so you can read it with your teenagers. And that's what I turned into my Olympics.
Amazing. I love you. I'm proud of you.
Too, brother.
I'm happy for you. And one of these days, we're going to break bread again.
Let's go.
The next station. Peace, bro.
I hope you enjoyed today's amazing interview. Today's episode was brought to you by my new book, Why Style Matters, The Mindset of Dressing Well and How It Impacts Your Life. To get your autographed copy, click the link in the description.